Welcome to the Black Male Impact. Today we have as guest Mr. Hayward Jean. He will be sharing with us. As you know, our goal is to inspire positive change. And I know Mr. Jean have a lot of knowledge to share with us. He's currently the Director of Student Services and the founder of Speak Life. Mr. Jean, welcome to the Black Male Impact.
Hey, thank you so much. Great to be here, Dr. Cross. And I want to applaud you for the work that you're doing, your consistency, your persistence, and your passion for education and for young people and for those who love them. So I appreciate this opportunity. It was a no-brainer to join forces with you on this platform. But yes, I'm Hayward Jean, and thank you all for joining us today. I serve as Director of Student Services for Orangeburg County School District, and I'm also founder of Speak Life Enterprises. It's a motivational institute that travels all around the country, empowering school districts and communities and organizations, service organizations. And we've been blessed to do that for quite some time. But probably one of my most dynamic jobs, really, and I don't call it a job, but a calling, is I'm married to a phenomenal wife who also joins me in that work. We actually planted a church. So we are also co-pastors of a ministry here in my hometown called Conform to Christ's Image Ministries in Orangeburg, South Carolina. Hopefully throughout our conversation, I'll tell you how all that ties into this thing called impact. We've been married for 17 years. My children are phenomenal kids. I have three dynamic children. One is 14. My oldest boy is 14, young man. My young man, our middle man, he's 11. And then my baby girl, my daughter, is 9 years old. I've been a principal for 9 years, Dr. Cross. I also served as Dean of Students, and I taught for 7 years as an elementary school educator. That teaching changed my life. And I got into teaching through a program called Call Me Mister.
Oh, wow.
I was blessed to be an inaugural member of that program. And we are a program that recruits, trains, and certifies Black men to become elementary school teachers and role models in the state of South Carolina to remedy the shortage that at the time there was less than 1% of teachers that represented the Black male population. And we wanted to be a solution we thought that was a problem. And now we've grown from a 3-college institution back then to now we're in several states all throughout the country and growing. And so that's a lot about me. I'm very passionate about community service. I serve on many boards in our community to continue to further the impact that we can make in the community and particularly in education.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's a tremendous bio. And thanks for sharing. And I do see you doing the work every day.
Wow.
Your commitment to speaking life
Yeah.
into people, especially our young people
Yeah.
who really needs it, who
Come on.
needs the reminder that they have greatness in them, that they
Say it.
have the ability to do well. So I commend you
Yeah.
on your commitment to remind, especially our young people, that they can be whoever they choose to be. So, Mr. Jean, welcome to the Black Male Impact, man. I'm just looking forward to hearing your insight and perspective.
Awesome.
So my first question to you is, what is the mindset
Yeah.
that it takes to make a positive impact?
Yeah, man. I believe the mindset that it takes, and I just had a long conversation with some freshmen at Claflin University, my alma mater. Love the university. And one thing that I shared with them that I believe that is necessary here is that the mindset that it takes is a purpose-driven mindset. I would even to elaborate a mindset that has a conviction of a cause. Like, what is your cause? What bothers you so much that you feel like you got to do something about it? I believe that is how you make a positive impact by first having a reason, having a why, having a cause, and then what are you going to do about that cause? So I believe being a champion of a cause is the first step to having a positive impact or a mindset to have a positive impact because you care, you have a compassion, and you want to serve. And I think that's really huge if you want to talk about making an impact on someone.
And I really appreciate that, finding that cause and identifying it,
Yeah,
and then go to work at it,
come
trying
on.
to solve the problem, because it's always great to, well, easy, or easier to identify the cause. But as you
Yeah.
said, once you identify the thing that bothers you,
Yeah.
it's then on you to go after it, pursue it, do what you can to remedy that situation. And that's how, yes, we create an impact, a positive
Exactly.
impact. And not only just going after it that I believe solve it, but in the
Yeah.
process of doing the work, we're going to be inspiring other people to realize that they too can play a role in creating change or making a difference.
Very true.
But with your job as working with students,
Yeah.
and so what are some of the challenges that you have seen when it comes to students throughout your career?
Very good question. And that's why I love how you led off the question with the mindset. When I think of mindset, I literally think of a mindset, what I've decided to set my mind on. That's critical because oftentimes, especially in education, it's easy to be distracted from what you have set your mind on. I say that because to that very question you asked, what is my biggest challenge? I thought, Dr. Cross, my biggest challenge was the fact that we have students that are not in position academically, socially, and emotionally. I've been talk about a challenge since the pandemic in this new role that I serve, where I am responsible for things such as school counseling in our school district. I have we work with a phenomenal team that does school counseling. That's in my department. All things social emotional learning is in our department, as well as uh, athletics is in my department. Nursing is in my department. So you can imagine nursing being our department in a pandemic. Okay. And so that's a part of my department, as well as so all things that want to help keep a kid in school. And we work co-curricular wise with the school, with the academic system, with curriculum instruction. So what would you say is the biggest challenge? So going to funerals, because I've had to go to about 10 plus funerals of students that died to gun violence in our community. And I've about 10 funerals and I couldn't make all of them. You know what I'm saying? And so, meaning there were more than that I could not make. And so that was a challenge. So I thought that was the ugliest thing, Dr. Cross, that I could ever face, that there are children that were dying before their time because of gun violence, until I realized that the uglier thing actually is that there are people who say they're for students that are not for students.
Wow.
That's troubling to me. And again, not saying that, and I speak nationally and I work closely with organizations all over. And so I'm seeing this throughout the nation, that there's a trend that we work for students oftentimes, but not work with students. Why do I say that? Because sometimes I think that our focus is off because we're doing the job, but we're not doing the purpose. And the
Mm.
purpose really is, what can we do together to find out what is happening to the point where our children feel like they don't want to be on this earth anymore. They have no value. And so I'm realizing that even though we're student services, there is an effort and intentional focus that needs to be made to keep the people who are about kids focused on working with students. And so my work is to help build the capacity. And we have a phenomenal team in my school district that is focused on building the capacity in the students so that we don't allow, and again, it's not even no fault of the adults who care about kids. We have things that are being brought down to us from all different angles, trying to tell us how to work with students, but they are not giving us what we need to actually do the job. It's not as purpose driven as it needs to be. And so I'm helping people to eliminate the distractions and focus on what truly matters. And so I believe that's probably the biggest challenge: staying focused on the cause, staying focused on the why.
You said quite a few things that I believe really needs to address, as you have been doing, where not everyone who is there in front of the students are there for the students,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and that can be a challenge. And as you said, some of the students don't feel as if they matter, and I
yeah,
think that's where you comes in, with the things that you've been doing, like daily
yeah,
speaking life into the
yeah,
students, speaking
yeah,
life into
yeah.
people, because people can get discouraged and people
Come
can
on,
get distracted with all the
100%.
different things that's happening around them. So
No,
it's always great to speak life
got to.
into other people. Yeah. So yeah, you're about to say something.
I gotta say that you said something there. It's always great to speak life in other people. Here's why: we can become so exhausted with the job that we become too busy to even care anymore. And it's not that we don't want to care, but there was a study that was done, and I read it in the Harvard Weekly magazine, Now, there was a study done that people have become so bogged down with the day to day, with the work, with the grind, so much so that they don't have any space. There's no more capacity to care because that has been taken up by the drain, by the stress, because people have been forced to do a job of which they've not been equipped to and they don't have the passion for. So why do we speak life? Because there's so many people working with students and working in other jobs who are existing with no passion, with no heart anymore for it, because their heart had been taken away from it because of the load. And so it takes people to remind you of their why. It takes people to say, no, the reason why you got into that profession, that reason still exists. Don't quit. Don't give up. And they need to be poured into because they're pouring out so much. And there's nothing that is refilling their tanks. So I'm glad you put that and you emphasize that again, because there are people that I think that are watching right now that they are tired and they want to care, but they forgot how to care because they have deadlines, they have tasks, and they're being overworked. And we want to remind you that nothing should, when you're doing your purpose, it should not stress you. It should not drain you. It should energize you. So if your job is taking the energy away, you need to reflect on, am I doing tasks that is for checkoff lists, or is my task closely aligned to the purpose of my assignment? If there's a compromise there, you need to have some deep reflection and serious conversation about where you go from here.
Well, man, that's a great point, because things are always happening. But if whenever you're not feeling empowered or energized from the work that you're doing,
Yeah.
yeah, you really need to do some self check and
Yeah.
see, where you may be off.
You got
Because
it.
that is important, because you're gonna need to feel energized
Come on.
to do the work, especially purposeful work,
Yeah.
because that in itself takes energy.
That.
Although it is something that you love to do, it
Come
it,
on.
it does take
It does.
energy. You have to really love to do it, and in a way where just doing it, man, just fuels you,
I love that.
gives you that drive to continue. And as you said, where the impact and where the students don't feel so empowered and energized, it leads me to this question. And being that the focus of the Black male impact is to get more men involved and men to understand their role. So,
Yes.
what advice do you have for the men listening on how they can play a role in creating positive change?
Man, one thing I would have to say is this, and I've had to learn this because I got into this profession and first started across thinking I had to be a superhero, bro. I thought I had to be the man. I felt like I'm the Black man and I'm going to be the savior of all children who grew up like me without their father and in poverty. And I would save the day. Man, I remember standing and working with children, and I expected, as my first couple of years in teaching, I expect them to come in and almost bow to the savior in a sense. Like, I'm coming, you need me more than I need you. And man, I had a child look me in the eye and shoot me the middle finger. It was a blessing to me because what it did, it humbled me, one, and two, it showed me, no, they need you to serve them more than you save them. And before you save them, you need to see them. And not only that, I realized that some of them saw me as the father that left them. Some of them see me as someone that was going to stick and stay. Some of them resented the fact that I was there trying to love them because they wanted there in their minds, and they couldn't properly articulate it except through a middle finger. They wanted to know, are you really here to stay? Are you here for whatever purpose that's good for you? And then are you out of here? Because I don't need somebody to come in and out. I need somebody who's going to walk on a journey with me. I say that because once you develop that mindset that I'm there to serve and I'm there to see, you're going to engage yourself in a work that is going to spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically drain you. So, what do you need, African American men, Black men? You need other powerful Black men. What we're doing right now is demonstrating that for you. Dr. Cross and I, we're sharpening each other. In the first beginning of this conversation, we were giving each other props. And we weren't saying, no, 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 don't say that about me. It's you, it's you. No, we didn't come with that syndrome of I can't accept somebody filling up my tank. No, I needed that. I needed to get on this call to be sharpened to know I am not in this alone. So many African American men have been challenged and made to feel like they must compete with other Black men instead of complete other Black men. meaning we are there to sharpen each other. If I had to put from the word of God, I would say each joint supplieth, meaning if I'm in this work, I can't be in this work alone without somebody else building me up. African-American men, Black men, I challenge you to get a cohort. See, when I got into the education field, I prepared to be a teacher with a cohort of African-American men who were just like me, who thought like me, who had a passion like me, who had a cause like me. So when I got beat up by others who didn't believe like I believe, who thought I was controversial and made me to feel like what you're saying doesn't make sense. It doesn't take all of that. They don't need this. I had people around me that said, keep going, boy. You got this, boy. We got your back if nobody else does. I want to tell you, Black men, you need other Black men. Iron sharpens iron. You need as much, whether you think you need it or not, you need it. And so that's what I would that's the advice that I would give. That has saved me, man. That has saved my energy. And it's also reminded me of my purpose regularly. You cannot go off this job from a purpose you had. You have to keep renewing that. The way you renew that is by having people and brothers in your corner that can keep pushing you when you don't have anything left sometimes.
Man, I really appreciate that. That is really important.
Yeah.
As I like to tell people, man, it doesn't matter how much you know
Come on,
or how motivated you think you are.
say it.
We always need to be around other like-minded people.
Got
And
it. Yeah.
like-minded people always don't have to be someone in the same profession.
That's good.
Like-minded can be people of the same value, share the same character.
Awesome.
So because you always want to, as you mentioned, have other people pouring into you, because if
Yeah.
you pouring out every single day,
Say it.
you need to be around people to share thoughts with you. And
Yeah.
sometimes just the conversation, I have so many conversations since I started this where
Yeah.
other men said things that, man, I wasn't even thinking about.
But
But is
right.
really beneficial
Yeah.
to the work that I want to do. So it's always great to get the insights and perspectives from others, because you need to, even if you know, because I had a conversation recently where I was talking to the person about some things that I read in the Bible a couple of years ago that I forgot. You
Wow.
see what I'm saying? And just by the conversation, it came back to the surface. You
Very
see what I'm
good.
saying? So sometimes we need those conversations to get the information pulled back to the
Yeah.
consciousness, because we are doing so much. And so some things get suppressed. And so we forget. And so you're right. Having the conversation with others, sharpen each other, is really important as we continue on this journey. But I really like, as you said, when you're thinking about serving others or being spaces where we're there to serve, we have to go with that mindset and not to save the kids. So it's serve
Yes.
them more than we go in there to save them.
Yeah.
Because as I said, sometimes these kids are the people we are serving have so many people come in and out of their lives.
Right.
And if they don't see you as that person, it's like you have to prove it.
Come
And
on.
which is right, because so many kids, man, or young people have gone through so much.
Yes, sir.
And having someone who they believe will be there to help them to get through their journey can be, a life changing time for them.
True.
Because some of these kids, man, are just in case you're as an educator, but in almost any environment, people want to know that you are committed
Come on. Come on.
to what you decide to do, because man, people get tired of people just starting, stopping.
They do.
Can I trust you? Will you be the person that I can trust
Yeah.
to help me to see life differently?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I believe that is important. So I really appreciate you sharing that from us having each other to get better,
Yeah.
and know that once we decide to start something, we're going to finish it.
Yeah.
And yes, life happens, and we may not be able to stay in every space that we started, because
Right.
opportunities present itself, or sometimes is misfortune. But we have to be willing to make the commitment.
Come on.
And that leads to this. How can we, as Black men, help to change the narrative The narrative can be anything from your perspective, from family to engagement in our communities, or just
Yeah.
being a leader.
I appreciate you saying that because that narrative that's loaded.
Yeah.
And so I would have to come from a perspective that hopefully will touch the audience in a way. And so I'll start with this as a quick story. I mentor a lot. So I'm a student service director in a school district office. I don't ever want to be removed from children. And so I find myself doing a lot of locker room talks, game talks with kids, having lunch with students. I started a couple of mentoring programs that I can spend time with students and talk to them. And one particular group I spoke with and talked to, middle school group, I asked them a question. It was about Black male impact, actually. It's about being a Black male and what does it mean? So I asked them, I said, tell me when you think of a Black man, what comes to mind? So they started telling me. They said, pimp, gang member, prisoner, thug, things like murderer, and everything you could think of that was detestable. That's what they said. So then I said this. I was curious. I was curious at this point. I like learning from kids. I said, well, define for me a white male. Entrepreneur, successful, Donald Trump. And they just started naming different things about white men. So now in the same group, I came there with a nice shirt and tie. Other Black men were around as well. So although they had men around them in front of them, that was the complete opposite of what they defined for me. What came out of them was everything that I was not. And although I was a visual image in front of them, that told me something. That told me about narrative, because it showed me that no matter what I was in front of them, the narrative they saw me as an exception. Oh yeah, you're not the Black man I know, because the Black man I know. And so it showed me something. And so I challenged. So then I asked the same to questions from adults. Do you realize that some adults that I asked told me the same responses? Blew my mind. Same responses. I was the same person that asked the question. And then we got into a deep discussion. And that's when they said, it's because of the narrative. It's because of what's being portrayed in the media. And I've learned that a lot of students get almost 90% of the information that kids get, they get it from social media, particularly TikTok and things of that nature. And so you're talking about changing a narrative. I don't believe that we can change a narrative, but I believe what we're responsible for is ensuring that we are not adding to, or we are confirming a narrative that people have already conjured up in their heads, or that the media has. I think there's a narrative that is always going to exist, but it's up to us to allow that narrative to die based on how we define our narrative. And so I think we have to be the ones to tell our own stories, because that's what the media is doing. It's creating a narrative. When are we going to create a narrative? And so here's where the challenge comes, Black men. Again, this may not be you, but it could be your cousins. And so I want you to take this information to your family. We cannot be no longer entertained by the thing that confirms the narrative that is what I just mentioned earlier. We can't enjoy the thing. We can't enjoy music that says kill another Black male and then say, I'm here to educate Black males. We have to learn how to realize that content it does matter. And so that was something that I would say to us, is that we have to define. And so here's what I did that was powerful, Dr. Cross. I actually defined for our young men what a Black man is. Blew their minds. I said, a Black man is responsible. He's a visionary. He's a protector. He has purpose. He engages his community. He makes an impact on his community. I said, he produces life, not death. I said, people around him are better people because when he comes around. And I started giving them definitions of what it is. And I said, look around you. This is that definition. And it changed their narrative because I gave them a definition. I don't think we do a better enough job as Black men at telling them the story. I think we want them to figure it out, but we have to do what the media does, tell them the story. And that was something that I did. And so we're going to have to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, do I enjoy a narrative that is trying to destroy the narrative that I am building? Am I constructing and deconstructing my own narrative at the same time? Am I compromising? Have I not been fully put my stake in the ground on who I say I am? And does my entertainment life, does my lifestyle, does my conversations outside of the field of education reflect or have the residue of what I say I believe about this field? That's why I say we have some self-discovery to make sure that we're not living double lives. And so that's the challenge that I'm offering to everyone, to ensure that even what you do in front of the cameras and outside of the cameras, that there's alignment, because that's the narrative that's being put out there.
Well, man, that's really great. From us not conforming to the false narrative,
Say it, man.
from us making sure we are taking control of
Come on.
what is said about us, from
Yeah,
us defining who we are. For those who may have a false perception and
you got it.
misconception of who we are,
Say it, man.
because I can tell you, man, as you shared with the response from the students. I ask college students the same question.
Wow.
And that's what comes to mind. That's what they share because we have discussions weekly
Hmm.
on different topics, but I can remember asking that question. And those were some of the response they gave. It was negative. That's what they know. And these were all young Black men in the room. This is
Wow.
what they think about
Yeah.
themselves. Some think they're going to be
Themselves.
successful, but some say, man, this is all I see in my community where I'm from. Everyone
Yeah.
around me, this is, this is what they
Yeah.
do. So
Yeah.
them being there in the environment, sometimes they're just there, but their mindset is not for that space. And that's why it's easy sometimes for them to fall through the cracks
Wow.
because they revert to
Mm.
what they're accustomed to. So
Wow.
it's to have the conversation over and over, as you mentioned, where
Yes.
iron sharpens iron, is to help them to reframe their
Yeah.
own thinking pattern, their thoughts,
There you go.
because they just as how others perceive us, just as how others are conditioned to think about us, we
Condition.
at the same time have the same, we are programmed the same way to
Say it,
see
man.
ourselves through the media, social media,
Wow.
and just to see us in a negative light. And whatever you see over and over, and I know we call me Mr. I know
Yeah.
one of their are the slogan itself is you become who you see.
Yes, sir.
And so we have to help them to change by being the change,
In the
not
change.
just saying it, but
Yeah.
modeling it. As you said, don't just say one thing here and then over here you are something else. Whatever
Yeah.
you do needs to be in alignment with
Yeah.
what you're saying. But I really appreciate you saying that we have to make sure we don't conform
Yeah.
to the false narrative.
Yeah.
We have to take charge
Yeah.
of writing our own story.
There you go.
Because they're going to be a narrative, they're going to be negative perceptions
Yeah.
of who we are. Sometimes I'll be wondering, man, how did it get to this point?
Me too.
Where, man, where, man, I tell you, man, man, it puzzled me sometimes. Why on God's earth things are like this when it comes
Tell me.
to us as Black men,
Same here.
especially? How
Same
did
here.
it get to this point?
You got
But
it.
it was socially engineered
Yeah.
to be like this, for us to be seen in
Yep.
this light.
Yep.
But one thing, I read something some time ago where somebody shared, it was maybe I made a post about Black men, and the person comment was, man, they know our greatness, but we don't.
Wow.
And I was like,
Yeah.
man, they know our greatness and we don't.
We don't. Mm.
And that's where we comes in, and that's where you comes in every
I
day, speaking
agree.
life,
I say that.
because it's to give us that reminder
Yeah, man. Yeah.
of who we are or who we can be,
Can be.
because innately we have the ability
Right
to
there.
do great.
Right
But
there.
sometimes we need that reminder, and we have to be consistent because we have to help them to override the old paradigm,
You
the
got it.
old thinking, the old image they have of themselves.
Wow.
And it's not because of them per se, but because of the environment or what they
Yeah.
have seen, because their kids do come from good homes, but they go around other kids that are not guided in the right way and they get exposed to these negative things.
You
And
got
if
it.
you, as you said, don't model it or be consistent with it,
Yeah.
your own child may fall through. So you have to not just tell them, but
You got it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great word. Great word. Yeah, we gotta train. I mean, it has to be that. My mom was passionate about training me when I was a young man and putting the right people around me and being consistent to the point where I was tired of hearing it. And then it became what I now regurgitate as a Black male educator now. And so I appreciate those comments. Very powerful.
Yeah, man, we have to model it, and I mean, and I like that saying. Make sure we're not conforming
Yeah. Yeah.
to the false narrative.
Yeah.
So I know you have been in education, and I know you have went through that program or got introduced to that program through Call Me Mister. But I still want to ask this question: what or who has influenced you or
Mhm.
inspired you to pursue the path that you're on?
Man, that's probably the easiest question in the world, and the most important. My mom, my mom being a single parent mom, my dad who has about 20 children, he didn't take care of us. He died of COVID last year. But
Sorry
my
to hear that.
mom, yeah, I appreciate that. My mom and she was very passionate to do that. And I say that on purpose because my mom grew up when we were raised, she grew up never talking bad about him for one. So
Wow.
even though he was a black male that made a negative impact on me, she was intentional about not increasing that negative impact to the point where I resented him in a way where I became him. That was one. So she was passionate about protecting that part of me because it was a part of me. And then what she did was she kept investing into me mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And she kept teaching me about that one day I would make an impact. I didn't know what that meant. I mean, she didn't have a book. She didn't write it. She wasn't someone that was a philosopher of thought, but she was the wise. She is, and still here, and still now. She's the wisest woman during that time that I've ever met, that I ever known. She's my mom. She produced greatness by constantly reminding me of how great I am. I mean, no matter what. So much so that I would always hear her thoughts in my head. So I would have to say her. Why is that? She kept telling me and kept reminding me that my life is here to help make life better for others. And she did it with these two words, these two phrases. She said, know your self-worth and to thine own self be true. That was her two phrases that live with me all forever is know your self-worth, know who you are, and then be true to that. Changed my whole life because she taught me to use that to inspire others. Now, here's what she did. She didn't just, like you said, she didn't just tell me. She would have me picking up trash in the community, have me cleaning elderly's homes. And she would have me doing all these things that seemed like they had nothing to do with what I'm doing now. She would tell me, every time she'd see a black male, let's say if she watched you on the television, you, Dr. Cross, she would bring me in from my bedroom and my twin brother and my little sister that we were raised with. She would bring me in and say, look at this African-American male changing his community. Look what he's doing for his community. You can do the same thing if you make up your bed. Like, what? What does it have to do with anything? She was teaching me structure. She was teaching me that if you can control you, then you have the power to impact others. And if you can't impact yourself, nobody's going to believe your impact on when you're trying to do it for them. So she was trying to give me stability of thought so that whenever I went out there, I wasn't a sage on the stage. I wasn't a performer, but I was a producer. And so I would have to say her, man. And she's still doing that for me to this day.
Man, I see where Speak Life was birthed from.
You got it. 100%.
That's
You
right.
got it.
That's right. Because your mom have been speaking life into you,
Yep.
and now you're speaking life into the world.
Come on.
So, man, that's where it was birthed from.
Wow.
So, man, that's great to have a foundation.
Yeah.
Despite what the foundation is, it doesn't have to be like the
Wow.
tradition. But
Say it, man.
sometimes the ones that are not tradition really prepares us the most.
Say it.
And it's in reflecting we realize how important those early years
Yeah.
are, the
Yeah.
benefit of
Mhm.
those early years, as simple as they may seem, where you may think I didn't have all the resources like everyone else,
Right.
but what I had really and truly prepares me. And as when I was much younger, people would tell me, God knows why He placed you where you are, and
Yeah.
you realize that value later in life.
Right.
Because when you're much younger, sometimes you'll be complaining, why do I have to go through this?
Come on.
But you have been prepared. You have been chosen to be where you are
Yeah. Wow.
for the work that you should be doing later in
Mm.
life.
I appreciate
So
that.
I appreciate you sharing on that which have guided you to be where you are today.
Wow.
So my next question to you is, what is your perspective on the current climate of Black men in society today? And you may have touched on that a little bit, but I
Yeah.
just want to hear more about what you think about our current climate.
Yeah. And you said it earlier about social engineering. It's a climate. It's a feel as if our thoughts, who we are, is an alternative more than an absolute. It's as if it's as if we're dynamic and having this, it's as if we're an exception. It's as if this is not who we really are, but this is what you can be if you decide you don't want to be who you really are. Who you really are is inferior. That's the feeling. That's the climate. But that doesn't have to be the climate that, again, like we talked about earlier, that we produce. And so I have a problem, Dr. Cross, and if you will allow me liberty, I realize that everybody's fight is not everybody's fight. I realize that my fight is not necessarily your fight. It's not, and I get that. It's fine. But what I do believe and I want assistance with is help with our young people in people realizing that it's not okay for images to be portrayed of them wanting to kill each other. Why do I say that? I don't know where is allowed in any other race where it's okay to promote and glorify the killing of Black men, except for in what I'm noticing in entertainment. I just don't see it. But then we have issues with even thoughts like this. The issues of this lack of fathers in homes. But then the images that are portrayed and was glorified is the very thing that could lead to fatherless homes. The music, the sexual explicit lyrics, and the images that are portraying our women to be. And I feel like those are engineers as well. And so what I would encourage male men and leaders is all around us now. It's like COVID. It is an epidemic. It is that. I will encourage every male, whether it is your fight or not, to show, if you agree that the images that are portrayed about us in media, in music, generally does not properly portray and has an influence on young people, I would encourage you, not saying you got to pull a banner up about it, but I would encourage you to stand up against it. Why do I say that? Man, Dr. Cross, I go all over the place talking about this very, very, in many spaces. And some people say, oh, it's just music. Let the kids have fun. They don't really know what they're listening to. It's da, da, da. But I ask kids the same question, and the kids say, no, this music can actually have a negative impact on my life. I was like, you're a child. So why aren't the adults saying that? I think the adults are profiting from it. I think this is an exploitation issue for our kids. They don't know the money they're getting from it on the adult side, and the kids are just dancing. Why? Because our kids are going to take what we give them. Yeah. And so I encourage us to give our children the truth. And so as Black men, I say that because as Black men, we can lead that. We can be the leaders of it because it's what we are, protectors. Yeah. We're not protectors just as Malcolm X, that image of Malcolm X with the gun outside of his window, and everybody used that quote, by any means necessary, and that defines us as protecting Black our families. No, it's more than that. That definitely could be a part of it, but it's more than that. It is how you can protect their minds. How will you protect their hearts? How you protect them emotionally? How you protect them as a community? And so that's why I go back to, what is your cause? And I want you, what do you allow around you? And make sure that we're not indirectly allowing the destruction of our own people and being accomplices to that.
That's powerful right there. Man, that's powerful right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we have to play a role.
Yeah, man.
We have to make sure, as you go back to what you said, not conforming to the false narrative or contributing to it. And it's not okay, right, for us to glorify the negative things that is portrayed about us. And one of the things that I really dislike when I see people say, man, I hate them showing this, but they're resharing it.
Yeah.
See, man, I don't want to see it. Don't share it. You're talking about why do I need to see it?
You got it, man.
So we have to realize that any form of engagement with it going to spread it all over. And you find sometimes the negative messages get a lot more engagement than the positive message.
You got it.
Even on a lot of these social media, when you on some of the music, I know one of the gentlemen here online was talking about the rap music because he wants to see why these kids are so into it.
You got it.
So he started to talking to them about it, listen to it with them, and try to break it down and let them see where it can affect them in a negative way.
Right.
So, but as you said, man, we have a lot of work to do to make sure we are playing a role in changing the narrative. Let the young people, especially, see us in a different light
That's
and
good.
make sure we are modeling
Modeling.
what we would like to see change. Because if we don't, things will not change.
Mm.
And we cannot and should not let anyone take control of where we go from here.
I like that.
That should be our responsibility. That should be our focus. And that should be want to change things. I have the desire to create this positive image
Yeah.
of who we are. And I think we have the ability to do it. We are capable of doing it. We just have to do it.
Wow.
So, and if we don't do it now, we cannot and should not
Yeah.
leave it on the next generation to
That's
do.
good. That's good.
We cannot. We have an obligation to make sure we are doing our part
Wow.
in changing the narrative and providing the young people with a perspective of possibility and where they don't have to succumb to the false narrative that's out there about us. So, but I know you share a whole lot.
Yeah.
I know the audience, the listeners, got something from you answering that question
Appreciate
about
it.
the current climate. So, what change
Yeah.
do you want to see in general and amongst Black men? I know you may have shared it already, but sometimes these points need to be shared over and
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
for it to register.
Yeah. And I want to echo a little of what I said earlier about African American men, our Black men getting together, coming together on the same page. It's not about competition. So that's what I would encourage, is that those who are in spaces that are similar, or nothing else, in values that are similar, that we strengthen each other together, that we come together, and that we do more in the area of unity and unified thoughts and ideas, and actually making a decision to come against things together on the same page. But that togetherness, it will be huge. I would love to see that be more of a change in how we approach the work, and no more feeling like we have to be by ourselves in this. I'm seeing a lot of people quit, just stop because they're alone. And I realized I want you to get someone. Each Black man find somebody. We started a text group amongst some of my friends, and we just grouped together and we vibe, send a message to each other to keep going. You got this. Do lunch every once in a while together. And all of them are educators. None of them educated except for me. We all home, secret. I mean, they do it. Law enforcement, military, real estate, all walks of life. We come together and we build each other up. So I want you to be intentional. Let that be an action item today, that you connect with other Black men that have the same values as you. Y'all commit to staying in touch with each other at least once a month, if not more than that.
And that's important, and an important reminder.
Yeah.
Goes back to, as you said earlier in the conversation, we have to have people around us who are pouring into us. When you are someone who pour into others, you
Yeah.
need to be poured into. And having the reminder at times is important, so you don't quit.
Yeah.
Because the journey can take a lot from you. And if no one is pouring into you, you may find yourself having a desire to quit.
Wow.
When your purpose is to continue to serve. So I think that's a great reminder for us to have other people around us. And you said something that is really valuable in having people around us, that people who share similar values, because I think that is important. So we can be strengthened by others. Although sometimes you're going to come across people who may not share the same value or values, but sometimes they may need a change, and you may be the one to help them to get that form that change within themselves.
I like that a lot. Yes.
So because some people are how they grew up, what they're exposed to,
Very good.
may not be the same as you. But they have that desire, but they have never been around people who they can trust.
Good point.
Are people who really understand
Yeah.
their own situation and their experiences,
Wow.
prior to making that. So sometimes we have to understand that we may not share the same values, but if they have the desire to change and want to make an impact, they are welcome to be a part, because sometimes, again, that's how we influence change, by welcoming those who may not.
Yeah.
But once they respect where your boundaries are, your values are, so you can help them to see beyond their own limitations, as I like to say, to see and believe more of what is possible
Wow.
for them. So I really like that when it comes to the change amongst Black men, where we work together to make a greater impact in the world. And that leads me to this, and it's kind of switching gear a bit, but maybe not. What was a pivotal moment in your life?
Man, this is deep for me because I would say a pivotal moment in my life, and so many pivotal moments. But the thing that kind of shifted it all was my encounter with my Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ. And that can be unpacked in so many ways. But what the way I really want to unpack that is, once I got my own conviction, my own revelation. I mean, not what people told me, not what I heard, but once I developed my own relationship with who I was and what I was called to be and why. And again, because of my Savior, the one who literally died for me, so that I can have a right to Him and then have a right to His cause. And then He distributed that cause through the role of education and all that. And so I would say once that happened, here's why it's so powerful, because I'm a motivational speaker. I do a lot of work in secular arenas, in arenas where I'm not teaching the Bible per se. But here's where this is powerful. Although I may not be teaching the Bible in many spaces, I'm teaching the works that I'm teaching the content and a math lesson with a power that is beyond what I've learned in high school and college and by my training from my mom. And so I will say that that was a pivotal point in my life, because it gave me a fire that I've not been able to, that no one can extinguish. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, I can get fired up about a good speaker, a good motivation. They can get me and I'll get revved up, but it only lasts for so long. But I've been put within me a fire that it's eternal. And I love it, because people need to know that you can have a walk with the Lord that is not spooky, that is not occultish, that is not relevant, and that is not this mindset where you can be so heavenly minded to earthly good. I say this. I say you must be so heavenly minded that you are earthly good. And so you have to have a mindset. And that, for me, a mindset was given to me by the Lord that allows me to reach people wherever they are in the space that He's given me to have authority in. And so that's why I'm able to do a rap song about multiplication. And not that anybody can't do it because you don't know the Lord. I'm just saying, what I'm saying is I've been empowered in such a way that this is what I'm called to do here, but I also can reach somebody in another space. And so for me, that was pivotal, because before I met the Lord, I was afraid of my own shadow. I couldn't speak. I could barely talk. I had a major stuttering impediment, speech impediment.
Wow.
Couldn't get words out. It was so difficult. It's like he loosed my tongue and then gave me something to say. And a lot of it had to do with education, of course, His word and all that. So you talked about pivotal in my life. That is career, marriage, fatherhood, community impact, ministry, everything wrapped up into one, man. That's changed my life forever.
Man, that's powerful. But as and with all the things that you have said, I
Yeah,
know you said you speak into secular arena and
yeah.
stuff like that. But who you are, wherever you are, that's who you are.
Say that.
So they're going to be reminded, not just the steps are the principles that you're sharing, but who you are will always come forth,
Come
no matter
on.
the environment. And sometimes, someone in that environment need the
Wow.
word.
Wow.
And who to say, man, your ministries may not just be in those four walls.
Yeah.
And when people going to know that you are representing God at all times, despite what you're saying, because you're
Wow.
going to be operated in that character.
Yeah.
Sometimes the people that you need to inspire going to be outside of the walls. So
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
always great, because you're always going to be yourself. It's not that when I'm in this space, I'm going to be somebody else. you're going to know that God is with me, wherever I am. So, and sometimes somebody in that space need to hear that.
That's good.
And it's always, man, you never know who needs it. And maybe that's why you're not just in those walls sharing the
Wow.
message. You are in different places empowering others because maybe they need it. Well, not maybe, they do need it.
Yeah. Yeah. Good.
They do need it too. And sometimes they wouldn't come to you,
Wow.
so that's how it works. You have to go to them.
Love it.
So it's great. But I appreciate you sharing that pivotal moment with me and the listeners. So my next question to you is, what life lesson have you learned late in life that you believe is important and can benefit this current generation?
The major life lesson is everything that I like or everything that I enjoy is not necessarily everything that everybody else enjoys. And I say it like that because I had to realize that once I became an administrator, I realized that everybody did not like me. Blew my mind, Dr. Cross. Who wouldn't like me? Oh, blew my mind. And in teaching, I felt like I was a rock star. I felt like I was beloved by everyone. Once I became an administrator, I started getting the revelation on to like you, even if even if you love them and you love people and you love kids and you love this system and you love that and you like this and it's positive. I realized that you're not going to be liked, and so I had to realize that, and it changed my life because I realized that also when you are confronting darkness, when you're confronting things that are hurting young people, everybody is not for that confrontation. Everybody don't want that smoke. Everybody don't want that fight. And so I had to realize that it was a breakthrough for me because it hurt at first because I thought, doesn't everybody want this? Doesn't everybody want this for kids? Doesn't everybody want this for our community? And my revelation was, no, they didn't. In my own classroom, the world I was in that little box, in that little class, everybody wanted that. That was what I thought. I said, oh, everybody does this because I do this and it works for kids. I realized that's not the case. And so I had to understand that. And I learned to not compromise no matter of that. And so it changed my whole life forever. It informed my work and it gave me a lot more muscle in the work as well. So that I realized I wasn't teaching to be liked, but I wasn't educating to be liked, but I was educating to make, like you were talking about today, to make an impact. And sometimes impact is not popular.
Man, you said a whole lot in that few seconds. I tell you, from not compromising, and that everyone, no matter how good your work is and how needed it is, not everyone is going to see the benefit of it. And sometimes it is kind of sad when you think that doing good work should be celebrated, should be liked. But that's not the case because going in a space where you think, even when you're talking love,
come on,
which you think love is something that is universal and should it be received by everyone, man, even the loved is rejected sometimes because not everyone wants that. Not everyone appreciates that. And sometimes it's not even that they don't want it. I don't, you get puzzled.
Yeah.
You get puzzled sometimes. You be wondering why it is like this. But I like what you said. Don't compromise despite the response from others, despite how they perceive your work or your impact. Don't compromise yourself or your message that you believe will make it different. You know you're doing good work. Don't change for people. I like to tell people, you don't change so people can like you, because you may change for them to like you, but you in turn don't like you. And that's not the way to live. You have to make sure you like you. And once you're doing great work and you're making a difference, you don't compromise on that difference just to be liked. And I stand on that 10 toes down.
There you go.
I'm going to be, once I know that I'm not doing something that's going to jeopardize people, once I'm not doing something that's going to just something negative, I'm not going to change so you can like me. I'm confident enough to keep showing up in a way that I know will make a difference regardless. Even if I'm standing alone, I ain't standing alone. I know sometimes I feel like I'm 10,000 people.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
we ain't standing alone.
Nah. Nah.
We know that.
That's it.
So once you have that conviction, man, you'll be all right.
You got it.
But I really appreciate you sharing that you know will benefit others. Not everybody's going to like you,
Yeah.
and that's fine. You just have to make sure you stand true to yourself as you go on this journey.
Wow.
So before I ask my final question, where can the listeners find you and help you with the work that you're doing? How can they support you on your
I
journey?
appreciate that. I appreciate that. So on my website, haywardjean.com, HAYWARDJEAN.com. There's where you can find resources and products and all those things that will assist in the work that we're doing. Please also, by subscribing or getting on any of those channels, YouTube, you'll see Hayward Jean there, spelled my first and last name spelled that way. But on Instagram, it is at Hayward_Jean. So it's on Instagram, it's at Hayward_Jean. On Twitter, it is at Hayward R. Jean. So my middle initial is R, at Hayward R. Jean. It's where you can find me, and on Facebook, just my first and last name as well. And you can connect on any of those platforms. My website has all the handles as well, that we can engage each other.
Okay, man. Thanks for sharing that. So, and I will also put it in the description here,
Perfect.
where the listeners can go back and connect with you and the work that you're doing. So, my final question is, what impact do you want to have on the world?
Wow. I want the world, the impact that I'm making, and I believe that I want to continue to have, is that everyone that I come in contact with, everyone that hears me, realizes that they have purpose, that they're not an accident, that there's a cause. And the impact that I want is to stir up a movement inside of everyone that I encounter. Movement has something inside of them, has a burden, a cause. And I just want you to make sure that you attach that burden to your mission and to your gifts, talents, and abilities. I just want everybody to realize their value, and that your value is needed to add value to someone else. If you do that, then you are fulfilling why you have been put on this earth, and that is to make that impact.
That's great. As they say, they're saying, should try to make the place better
Yeah,
than you found it.
found it.
Which that's what you're actually doing, because
Yeah,
once you speak life, or you be speaking life all the time,
yeah,
it makes the place better. Once we focus on leaving the place better than we found it, we are doing our due diligence in impacting others. And that's the difference we make in others. That's what lives on,
wow,
the impact we have on other people, sharing. So I appreciate you wanting to make that the thing you want to do in this world, because
yeah,
that's what it's about. What we learn, what we experience, is to help others
wow,
to even live a better life. So that's great when it comes to serving.
wow,
And it goes back to what you said in the beginning, because we are here to serve. And
yeah,
one of my mentors said, service is the rent we pay for our time on earth. So giving back and making an impact, that's all aligned with providing our service to other people.
that's good.
So, Mr. Jean, man, thank you
At the
for
cross.
being here on
Yes,
the
sir.
Black Male Impact. It was a great conversation, man. I really appreciate your thoughts and
Wow,
perspectives
wow.
that you share with us here on the Black Male Impact.
Man, what an honor. Continue to make the impact you're making. And I enjoy you all the time. And I look forward to just continue to grow this relationship so we can make more of an impact together. I appreciate you allowing me to be on your platform today.
Man, thanks for being here, man. I see the work that you're doing, and I see your commitment. So it's just right that we do
Wow.
this work.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you.